Hello everyone and welcome to that first session of discovery on the Toliss A319. We're going to go over the plane, parameters, and we'll do a bit of checklist as in the real world stuff. This is the beta 1.1 currently testing as I'm part of the beta testing team. So I will go through the systems. We'll plan a little flight as a tutorial for you guys to understand what needs to be done for the people that actually discover Airbus philosophy. So that will be nice for you probably to have an explanation in details and in video of what you need to do with the plane. All right, so first things first, regarding the realism here, I would advise that, for example, here we'll ask for the ground handling window and do the ground request, the ground services.
Service trucks coming.
All right, the service trucks are coming and they will load trays and stuff into our plane, so that's good to know when to feel actually. And well, for us, the stuff starts here. We'll go inside the cockpit right now. There we go. So it might a bit differ from the old videos you have seen over the Toliss. The texturing and stuff inside the plane has changed a lot, to be honest. So that might be a bit different from the other videos you probably have seen before. We're in cold and dark configuration, although the batteries are already powered. So right now I'm going to go through a checklist and I will do that orally so you can have the information of the checklist itself. I'm using an Android app actually calling the A320 checklist. This is exactly the same thing as we have here in the 319. A few things differ from the 320 to the 19, to be honest, so that's fine with me to use that as an information checklist for the 19. All right, so as a checklist in the cockpit preparation, we're going to go through the cockpit preparation here. So as it says, so stairway, connect, and call, that's the case. So we've called everything. Engine 1 and 2 master to off, that's the case. Ignition selector to normal, this is the case. Landing gear down, we see it right now, so that's fine. Battery 1 and 2 on, that's the case. Let's check quickly. All right. And there they're on. All right, so they're on. Exterior power to on. So this is currently available. So as we can see here in the Toliss, we'll go over the Toliss ISCS configuration and go directly to the ground services. We have currently the external power connected, as you can see here, so the GPU. We can connect here the high pressure for engine start and the low pressure for the passengers and the air conditioning system mostly. So we'll just connect the external power and the cockpit, you'll see, will come to life. There we go. So we hear now the systems, the MFDs, PFDs, well, whatever you have here are going to come up to life quickly, actually. There's a couple dozen seconds before it comes up. All right, so APU fire button down in guard. This is the case. EPU fire test. So what we'll do now is, before we do that, we'll increase the brightness on the ATIS, PFD, and navigation display. And don't forget that little knob here and the big knob. The little knob will actually get the brightness of this entire screen, and the other one behind will have the overlay when it comes to terrain and weather display, so don't forget to change that too. As we go here, we'll pop up that screen, and the other one is not essentially, well, we can't change that to side of the screen, or maybe around here, so you can see what's happening here. All right, so what we'll do here and now is test the APU 5 button. So we'll just run that now. All right, so we have the tone, and you've seen that things have actually changed on the ECAS, so that's really interesting. We'll keep those on. The checklist also gives up APU start, which I'm not going to do since we already have most of the systems connected to the ground. And I'll do, before pushback, an engine number 2 startup, if I recall correctly. All right, so external power, they say external power. All right, it's okay. GPU truck dismissed. Not yet. I want to do my. I want to do everything I need on the plane. So what we can do here is we've done the APU. We'll do the other engines test. So engine 1 tested, okay, and engine 2. There we go. So we've tested the engines now, and now we can discard the ACAS pop-ups. What I can do now is, for example, we can now check the pressure systems, although I've not actually activated anything regarding the failures, so that's not what I want. I want the hydraulics. All right, so let's get this one up. What we can do here is that we can cycle actually the parking brake, and you should see here stuff changing. So let me cycle a bit. As you can see, the accumulator is slowly decreasing as we cycle the, and it will go back to 0, which means that we won't have much pressure in the brakes. All right, so now we don't have any pressures in the brakes as we've cycled that. What we can do now is that we need to get the electric pumps on, so we'll arm the electric pump. All right, we hear on the background the PTU barking. You can see the accumulator and the pressure will start rising. Yellow green. We've got our pressure settings back to normal, and we'll cycle back the parking brake. We've done that. Now we've done that, we don't need really the electric pump, so we'll get that back to off and let the engines do the rest when we actually test it. All right, so let's test the engine lights. Sorry, the lights in the cockpit. Everything should be lining up on the overhead at least. That's what we've got. So I can go back to bright. It suits me well. All right. So what I'll do now is test a few things regarding still the hydraulic systems. We can actually get all the systems off if we want. We can check that that comes off, and this is the case. If I activate the electric system here, it's not, yeah. So we can, this corresponds to here. This one, the blue circuit is actually handled by this one. I'm not going to test it, to be honest. I don't really need it. Brake pedals, we've already cycled the parking brakes, so I'm okay. Flaps, we have to check it's up. Flaps up. All right, ground spoiler, retracted and disarmed. This is the case. Probe heat window to auto. So that's the current setting here. the philosophy in Airbus, if you're not really accustomed with Airbus, basically it's black is good. So the more black you have in the cockpit, the best it is. All right, APU bleed. We won't need it because we already have a ground bleed, cross bleed auto. So that's if we want to have, so the cross bleed is already, no, this is the cross bleed. So we'll open it as we probably will need it once we start the engines. As you can hear, there's now bleed. We hear air coming up. All right, the packs are on. Usually you set that setting to low. It's a departure depends on the number of passenger. Actually, we'll change that depending on the number of passenger we'll load up for the flight. All right, so electrical panel, we consider that checked. Yep, everything normal. External power, I'm okay. We have no warnings. Ventilation panel, no warnings. That's fine. All right. Now we'll have those selectors to navigation, as it will require to some extent to start the alignment process. All right, so we've set that to nav. We repeated that for 2 and 3. We cannot test really the position of the ADRS because it's not currently implemented. You would do that by taking here the data position, and it will show up here, but this is not the case because it's not implemented in the plane currently. All right, emergency lights to arm. This is the case now. Landing elevation is auto. That's already the case, so we'll leave it there. Engine fire, we already tested that. Strobe lights to auto. Radio panels to on. All right, so we've got a couple of those. So we've got this, the backup, captain, and first officer. All right, radio panel. All right. We won't really set up. Oh, we can actually set up the radio frequency for the ATIS. So what we'll do here is that we'll come up and select the airfield, the details in terms of frequency, as we have here the ATIS 126. To 6.17. All right, so now we'll listen to the ATIS.
Lion Saint Exupéry Information Tango. 900 Zulu weather. Wind light and variable, visibility more than 10. Sky clear, temperature 26, dew point 17. Area QNH 1018. Arriving runways 35 left, 35 right, departing runways 35 left, 35 right. Advise on initial contact you have Tango.
Alright, so we've captured now the ATIS. We have information Tango on board. We already preset the QNH to 1018 on both sides. And so we know that the departure will be on runway 35. Here for that situation it will be 35 left for the departure. Alright, so let's continue our checklist. Altimeter is now it's set. Let's consider that we have the ATC clearance. We'll be doing a flight to Charles de Gaulle Airport. Because I know it by heart actually. So I already know that if you do a live ATC stuff, it would probably clear you for flight level, for example, 140. But here we'll go actually directly to the cruise level. All right, so now it's time to start. It's time to actually get the information on the MCDU stuff. So let's get the brightness up on those units, clear those messages. All right, so let's clear up. And what we'll do is, so enter a flight plan. So we go to the init page. So this is the init 8 page where we have actually the information we set up for the flight plan. So this is Lima Foxtrot, Lima Lima to Lima Foxtrot, Papa Golf. All right. The alternate will be probably Brussels. So EBBR. We can select that to Brussels. And the flight reference here, hold on, we'll do something like Toliss A319. All right, flight number, cost index, we'll take something as 20. Flight level will be 280. And also I could calculate the estimated ESA temperature at that level if I take the wind charts and stuff. So, and if you want to enter it, you just have to do a slash and then you select the ESA temperature you need to set up here for that flight level. All right, so now we are going to do the auto alignment process given our position and the fact that we've entered the our current location at airport. So it's now align IRS. So now we cannot select anymore and change the lat long here. The process will start and do that automatically. Now time to set up our plane before we continue. So let's go to the ISCS screen. So you have a couple things. Let me give you a quick head up on what's actually happening here for the plane. All right, so we've got the position situation. So that's the autosave stuff. So I do recommend that you set up the autosave automatically and with an interval of 5 minutes, so you can reload a situation here. As long as you're airborne, the autosave situation will start recording the flight every 5 minutes, so you can recover a flight whenever you want and do that. All right, so aircraft configuration, we do PAX 120. Loads are okay with me. Just be careful that you don't have those crosses getting outside of the borders. So the red stuff here, you need to be careful that those crosses do not overpass those limits. Those are the normal weights and settings as the center of gravity for the plane, where you can actually get the plane into a correct setting for departure. So I apply the loads and do a quick refuel here of the 7,000, which suits me well. All right, so now we've got the ground services. I already said that earlier. I've set that here to open everything, so I'll need to close them down once we're ready for pushback. Now with 1.1, we have the fault scenarios. I'm not going to review that now, but you can enable random faults with a flight time factor of 1, whatever you want. Save it as default. Everything is explained in the documentation of the plane, so you'll have plenty of time to play with it and information to read about it. Add-ons. You will be able to buy a new engine sound pack for the starting the 1.1, and that is the IAE engine sound pack. So you'll need to buy it. You'll get a license, and you need to activate through that page actually. Audio and visual settings. Now I've set that to my requirements. I do recommend to have the 3D sounds fading if you have it. If you have headset that actually support it, if you have a 5.1, 7.1 plane with headset or sound device, I do recommend that you activate it, because now we've got the 3D spatial sounds, and really good sounds actually, because they're coming up from TSS, or Turbine Sound Studios actually. So so if you want to enjoy the full setting of that audio for that plane, I do recommend that you change those and save settings. So you can save settings. It will reload those settings next time you you load up the plane. And now what I will do now is most probably you can do, and well, we have one left, so it's not really worth it. But I do recommend to, if you want to have a quick start, to do the ADRU quick align procedure. Here are the preferences. I do overwrite my settings from X-Plane, and I set it directly to cold and dark. Here you can have an ILS auto align. You can see that what it does in documentation. Basically, it depends on the custom scenarios. It will realign the database for the Airbus on the correct ILS core settings. Use mouse wheel, F1, F2, and the aircraft as Florence kit. Florence kit is basically suited for short landing runways. So especially, for example, London Airport or Florence, actually, airfield, which are really small airfields. So that actually changes the logic on the spoilers and flaps. So that's it. All right, so now we've done that aircraft configuration, quick refuel. We can dismiss that window and get our flight plan ready. I'm still going to continue and use the 3D version. There is a 2D version available if you need it. All right, let's clear out the GPS primary. All right, so yeah, that's why I need the ICS screen back. You can move it around, and so we'll change the settings here. So as written here is 27.6. So 27.6 slash, and now we've got the zero fuel weight, which is 55.9. Everything here is mentioned in tons. So the settings in kilograms. So be careful with that. Don't mix it up with pounds actually. All right, so we've got those set up, and the block fuel is 7. So that's it. So now we've seen the pre-calculated areas and fields in green, and you can actually change everything back. Everything in blue, you can change that if you need, but we're not going to do that right now. Stack C02 suits me well, so I'm going to take that as the reference. All right, so let's now enter our flight plan. All right, so so departure and arrival are already preset in the flight plan. So we'll set the departure, as we said, 35 left. So we'll be doing a north departure. So let me check the correct. All right, so that's this one. All right, so this one is okay. No transition, at least in Europe, so there's known. So you can check known and insert. All right, now we can insert the rest of the flight plan. So we've got MOKIP. So we'll put here, oh, sorry. Airways, UN 854 to VIA. And then we've got the JL as the waypoint. Flight plane is pretty small. We don't need much here. Some might actually ask why there's no validate the temporary flight plan. Did happen in flight. This depends on the version of the MCDU. Currently, it's a mix, let's say, of Honeywell and Toliss. Probably in the future we change that to Toliss full MCDU logic. All right, so now we've got our flight plan. We'll set up the, oh, we can already set up the arrival procedure. I'll check here, 26 right. Alright, so DGL 8 whiskey and Okipa 4. Alright, so transition, there's no transition. Oh yes, there is a transition, sorry. It's going to be yep, it's probably keep alright, I'll insert that. That changed a bit from what I recall, so maybe I should be careful with that. No star. There's no transition point showing up. It's not a big deal, I guess. Probably the procedure I've changed. I'll need to check that. No big deal. Yeah, I do have that. And obviously here, what's happening is that we've got it will be a manual procedure, as the goal airport usually has ATC that guides you for the final and approach. So here, as we'll be offline, we will be clearing out the manual part and get directly the flight plan altogether. Alright. Alright, so now we've got the alright, so now we are starting the flight plan. Everything's okay. What we can do is set up now the performance page. So we've got that calculation done here. We can even you can even change here the slope of the runway if you know it by the charts. We're obviously doing a 35 left departure. So what we'll do here is so we take a configuration of flaps 1 and up 04. All right, so that's set. Flex stamp of 64. We do a flex stamp here. All right, so we'll do that. Acceleration. I'll keep those values. I'm not going to change those. And now we can enter the V1, V rotate, and V2. So 151 for V1. Rotation will be the same speed at 151. And V2, 153. I could change here the V1 to lower settings if I want. I'm not going to do that. It depends on your preference and the company preference regarding that. All right, let's exit the other page to get back to the standard page. All right, so we've set up the flight plan. We can review that in its perf. I think settings should be now here already pre-filled, except the approach. So that's done. Let's go back to the flight plan and or checklist. So now the FCU, everything is set. So we're good with it. Flight director is on both sides. ILS off. Obviously, we don't really need it. ILS. This is the landing systems you have here. As part of the systems you need to activate to get actually the an ILS feedback. Nav mode is set. Clock check, ATC TCAS standby. So that is new also in the V1.1 is that you can change here the transponder panel has been actually you've got new functionalities. So what we usually do when we take off, we take the above and we stick that to standby for now. So this is on standby. I'm okay with that. And to skid on. This is the case. And skid here on. So that's the case. We can check that. Weather radar is off, and this is the case. We don't need that on the ground. Weather radar is basically the one default from X-Plane. You don't really need to have that set up here, those knobs actually move, but there's nothing behind that. You actually get the systems to 1 or 2, and it will show up the weather here if you've got 1, except if you've pressed the terrain on ND, where the weather will not show up, but only the terrain. So be careful with that. People tend to mistake that. All right, weather radar is off. Thrust levers to idle. This is the case. All right, so idle. Ignition selector to normal. This is the case. We already changed that. And ADRS aligned. And this is the case. If we go up here, black, as you remember, black is good. This is the case. So black is good, and we've got that covered. All right, so now we're ready for pushback. So what we'll do is that we'll do the pushback. After that, we'll stop the video, and I'll start another one just to cover the taxi takeoff, and then we'll do the rest of the flight in several sessions. All right, so the thing I need to do now is pop up back the ISCS screen. So we've got the ground services. Let's go that to auto, and everything will start closing. Except the cargo doors. Let's see that. Let's go to the external view. All right, the cargo doors are closing, as you can see here. So that's great. We now have our passengers loaded up, so everyone's seated, and we can start. Before engine start, checklist. All right, door closed. This is checked. Stairways dismissed. This is the case. All right, seatbelt signs to on. No smoking to on. All right. All right, we'll keep that to on as we're on the ground. And now we've got the beacon light. As we're going to power on the engines, we need to warn everyone on the ground that we're going to start the engines. So onboard auto checklists run if preferred. There's no auto checklist here that actually pops up. So what we'll do is that we'll use better pushback. So we'll pre-plan or push. All right, so that's a pre-planned one. I'm okay with that, so I'll press enter.
Ground to cockpit, Blood knowledge, call me through the menu when you are ready.
All right, so now for the pushback, we've called the tow truck. Before we wait for the tow truck to actually get our front nose wheel, or the nose wheel into the tow truck, and then we'll start engine number 2 before we disconnect anything else. As we're doing to do a ground ramp. So while it's currently coming up, let's go and start the engine number 2. So, all right, ignition start. So now the packs have actually closed, and we're going to get the engine 2 now running up. So let's monitor now the information regarding the engines. From the external view, I've set up the engine sound quite low, to be honest, so you will not probably hear it well through the cockpit, but as in the real life, you don't hear those quite often. Alright, so let's get those back to on so we can remove the warning. Alright, so now we've got to wait for the tow truck. Where is it? Alright, so we probably have to pull it. Now we started the engine. And we'll do, alright, so now start pushback.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
Alright, tow truck's coming up. Alright, let's wait for, well, that's an Air France tow truck. Cool. Alright, so we still have the engine number 2 running. Let's wait for our tow truck to actually do the work. And once he starts pushing us back, we'll start engine number 1. Alright, so now it's time to actually disconnect the other ground equipments we have, ground services. So before we do that, I'm going to disconnect external power, low pressure, high pressure.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect.
Alright, ready to connect. Nose wheel steering is disconnected, as it will probably insert the bypass pin. This way. Alright, so now our front wheel is getting lifted.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Alright, so now it's time to release the parking brakes. So we're going to acknowledge that and release parking brakes.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Alright, so we'll start engines now. We've got a 2 running up, so now since we've got the push start started, we're going to start the engine number 1. So we changed the packs to I because actually we've got a lot of passengers, so above I think 100 something. Strange we haven't had that checklist for the nav one. Should have done. Well, I'll check the. Probably there's some items missing in the checklist. I'll need to review that. Alright, so the pushback is almost over. We started everything.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
Alright, parking brake set.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Alright, as you can see, we're moving back down. Alright, now we're ready to start rolling. what we can do is that we'll stop the video here, and the next one will introduce the so the after engine start, taxi procedure.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the right. We'll see you next time on other side flight.
Alright, we're pretty close from the other one. Anyway, see you guys in the next video while we see the tow truck getting away, and see you for the taxi. Cheers.